Thank you, Madam Chair. Hello, I'm Luke Londo, and I serve as the Hazel Park Mayor Pro Tem, and I recently began service as a member of the Michigan Civil Rights Commission. I am extraordinarily proud to say that with my recent appointment by Governor Whitmer, I became the first member in the Civil Rights Commission's 60-year history to publicly identify as LGBTQ. I am openly and gratefully bisexual. I'm also proud to say that as a public body, the Michigan Civil Rights Commission first advocated for expanding the Elliott-Larsen Civil Rights Act to include protections for the LGBTQ community nearly 40 years ago. A legacy of leadership on LGBTQ rights that is virtually unmatched in the state. To appreciate the gravity of that length of time, I'd like to point out that the esteemed chair is only 39 years young. On May 21st, 2018, after months of public hearings and citizen input, the Civil Rights Commission issued a landmark interpretive statement determining that Elliott-Larsen includes protections for the LGBTQ+ community under the prohibition of discrimination on the basis of sex. Because if you have two employees who are both married to a man, one of whom is a woman and one of whom is also a man, what is the difference between them, if not sex? With this common sense reading of the law, the Michigan Department of Civil Rights began investigating complaints of discrimination on the basis of sexual orientation and gender identity, work that continues to this day. This bold and forward-looking action on the part of the Civil Rights Commission initiated litigation that ultimately yielded a court decision that affirmed the Commission's interpretation of Elliott-Larsen and ensconced civil rights protections for LGBTQ+ individuals into the jurisprudence of Michigan. But ultimately, at this point in our state's history, the greatest safeguard of civil rights, equal opportunities, and privileges afforded other Michigan citizens can only be assured for the LGBTQ community by conscious and deliberate legislative action that codifies the great weight of moral authority and the will of the people of Michigan. Most Michiganders believe, as I do, that it is the right thing to do, but it is also the smart thing to do. A decade ago, the Michigan Department of Civil Rights issued a groundbreaking study on the negative impact of Michigan's business climate and economy if we fail to enact protections for LGBTQ+ community and make Michigan a truly welcoming state that celebrates diversity and embraces all people, regardless of their sexual orientation or gender identity. Today, we are presented with the historic opportunity to change the climate in Michigan so that the students we educate don't leave right after graduation, so that our best and brightest don't look for more welcoming places to build their careers and families, so that corporations considering Michigan don't turn away because their employees want to live in vibrant cities that celebrate diversity. On behalf of the Michigan Civil Rights Commission, we urge you to expand the Elliott-Larsen Civil Rights Act to include definitive protection for Michigan's LGBTQ+ residents and those who would make this great state their home. On a personal level, I was proud to introduce and help pass a human rights ordinance in Hazel Park 2 years ago, along with then City Council member Mike McFall, which accomplished the same thing I ask of you today in my little corner of the world. I also introduced a resolution at a Michigan Civil Rights Commission meeting just last week, affirming our hope for you to take legislative action on this bill to enshrine protections for the LGBTQ+ community without amendment. It is my greatest hope that those past actions become wholly unnecessary and any future human rights ordinance be rendered performative instead of imperative. As I'm married to a woman, I've enjoyed a tremendous amount of privilege as a straight presenting white man, especially as I spent much of my working life in politics employed by Republicans. I'm proud to say that I worked for the late Congressman Dan Benishek and Republican Attorney General Bill Schuette, as well as served as an elected party official within various levels of the Michigan Republican Party. I value those experiences immensely, especially the personal conversations with Attorney General Schuette about this and other issues. My experience has placed me directly in the room to hear what some perceive as opponents of this measure have to say. And they say overwhelmingly behind closed doors that it should be illegal to discriminate against someone on the basis of sexual orientation, gender identity, and expression, even if it conflicts with their own religious beliefs. They've also said as much publicly in a 2019 Glengarriff poll. In fact, nearly everybody I spoke to about testifying today, including a dear friend who's here in the audience who helped copy edit my remarks because the subject is so deeply personal to me, are longtime friends that I met through my previous life in Republican politics. Each of these friends have been endlessly supportive of me despite my becoming an independent and this cause. This bill is a bipartisan representation of who we are as a state and as a community of people who believe in and want nothing but the best for each other. This bill transcends partisan affiliation and is one of those rare moments in our heightened and increasingly adversarial political discourse where the right and just thing is plainly self-evident. And for that, I am grateful. I quit playing football when I was 16 because it was easier than coming out in a small town in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. In fact, I didn't come out until college, and I still remember the raw terror of that moment, as I knew my life would be divided into what happened before and after that conversation with my roommate. And while I'm lucky to have not experienced discrimination firsthand, largely due to my privilege, it's not an unfamiliar concept to the people around me. They deserve better. We deserve better. Also, when I was growing up, I didn't have people like Senator Jeremy Moss, Representative Jason Hoskins, Representative Jason Morgan, Oakland County Executive David Coulter, Representative Mike McFall, Attorney General Dana Nessel, or the largest LGBTQ+ legislative caucus in Michigan's history to look up to. But our children do now. My 4-month-old son does now. Please, do right by each other, do right by our children, and do right by our state by explicitly extending the civil rights protections within the Elliott-Larsen Civil Rights Act to the LGBTQ+ community. The time to act on this is now. The last year has shown us how fleeting precedent may be, no matter how well established we think it is. I thank you for your time and in advance for your vote in favor of this legislation, as well as your continued efforts to protect the civil rights and bodily autonomy of the LGBTQ+ community. And I also request that the study at reference be entered into the record. Thank you.